What unfolds when the architect of a cruise empire witnesses his patron's luggage being treated with such disregard? Bradley Sutton rested against the railing of Dock 3, observing the tumult beneath him. He donned a worn neon vest, shades, a faux goatee, and a walkie-talkie attached to his belt. He went unnoticed by everyone, the dockhands, the manager issuing commands, and the supervisor laboring with carts piled high with suitcases, and that was precisely how he required it. 19 cruise terminals along the eastern seaboard. That was the culmination of his efforts over the past 14 years. The dream began with a small port in Florida and an old worn-out ship that had seen better days. They now provide opulent cruises, exquisite dining experiences, and a multitude of employment opportunities. Recently, he had been receiving unclear feedback regarding extended delays, misplaced baggage, and unfriendly behavior at Terminal 12, specifically in Charleston. Bradley was unfamiliar with the team present here. The majority of the new employees were sourced via the corporate HR department. He seldom made his way to the terminals these days. He had vice presidents and district managers for that. Yet there was an element of the final customer report that lingered in his mind. My honeymoon began with a malfunctioning suitcase and an apology that seemed more like a dismissive gesture. That's the reason he found himself here in disguise, uncovering truths that reports failed to reveal. "Hey, newcomer," a booming voice called out. "Text. Are you deaf or just taking your time?" Bradley asked as he turned, pulling the luggage cart. Assigned to him. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a grey dock-lead jacket loomed at the ramp entrance, chewing gum with a defiant air, as if it had wronged him in some way. "Apologies," Bradley remarked. "The cart has become immobilized." "All right, let's get going." "You're holding up the queue." A nearby colleague let out a soft laugh. "New prey," he whispered. With a quiet nod, Bradley pressed on ahead. He anticipated no fanfare. He was ready for the grind. That was acceptable. However, what unfolded before his eyes was entirely unexpected. Two team leads in grey jackets, reminiscent of a gum chewer, were unloading luggage from a bus. Failing to position it on the conveyor with the care demonstrated in the training videos. Not even throwing it with care. No, they were throwing them with great force. A suitcase crashed onto the concrete, bursting open and scattering clothes everywhere. The two protagonists chuckled heartily. One sent the suitcase flying toward the cart as if it were a soccer ball. "Come on, man," said a younger dockhand nearby. "That one carries a delicate label." "Then it shouldn't be Flying Spirit," one of the leads remarked, a snort escaping their lips, causing Bradley's chest to tighten. He approached to assist the younger colleague, whose name tag read Thomas. Reserved, likely in their early 20s, with thick black hair neatly gathered into a bun. "Are you all right?" Bradley inquired softly, kneeling next to him. Thomas gave a slight nod. "Indeed. It's really frustrating when they act that way. It happens frequently. Most shifts, I do my best to address what I can, but," he shrugged. "They're in charge, and I'm just a dockhand." Bradley gazed at the battered suitcase. A framed photo rested on the floor, depicting an older couple beaming in front of a Christmas tree. He lifted it gently, removed the dust with precision, and placed it back where it belonged. That evening, following his shift, he found himself, in his motel room, gazing up at the ceiling. He experienced a wave of nausea. He had faith that the essence of his company's culture would resonate throughout every terminal. Supervisors should safeguard the guest's experience as if it were their own. He had made a mistake, yet he required more than a single shift, more than just one torn bag to uncover the complete reality. He returned the following morning, and then again the day after. After 3 days, he began to observe recurring themes. Thomas consistently took on the burden of the heaviest bags, always addressing the guests with a respectful sir or ma'am as they walked by. He maintained his composure, never raising his voice even in the face of shouts. A dockhand named Priya diligently wiped off hard-to-read luggage tags and rerouted mislabeled bags, all without needing any direction. However, the leads, particularly the one with the gum who had a badge that said Kirk, looked down on everyone as if they were inferior. In the absence of the district manager, They would slip away for extended breaks, issue commands with a sharp tone, and ridicule customers when they thought no one was listening. One afternoon, Bradley observed Kirk hurling a pink carry-on directly onto the pavement. "Hey," Bradley reached out and Kirk responded. "Excuse me?" Kirk approached, his face just inches from Bradley's, and said, "That's someone else's belongings, man. Do you have an issue?" "I have eyes," Bradley stated with a sense of composure. The bag bore a delicate sticker. "Are you their legal representative or something?" Kirk curled his lip in disdain. Just as Bradley was about to respond, Thomas moved ahead, silently retrieving the carry-on. "Allow me to take care of this," Thomas said gently. Kirk dismissed him with a scoff and turned away, while Bradley let out a deep breath. His hands trembled. That evening, he lingered in his vehicle, gazing at the dockyard. He experienced a profound sense of defeat. He had convinced himself that the culture he created, one of respect, dignity, and care, would endure even in his absence. It had not. He retrieved his phone and dialed his assistant. He instructed to arrange a private staff meeting. "Air Terminal 12. It's just me and the team, no managers involved. Do you want me to reveal your identity to them?" "No," Bradley replied. "Not at this moment." Bradley lingered at the periphery of the warehouse, which functioned as a hub for the arrival of luggage. The atmosphere was heavy with the scent of diesel, the tang of sweat, and the persistent hum of conveyor motors. He grasped a clipboard filled with fabricated shift notes, observing as the early morning team trickled in, many still in a daze of sleep. The private meeting he had arranged was set for tomorrow, yet today he still had one final shift to observe. Unbeknownst to them, the founder of the company observed their every move. That was the essence. A woman with a sleek ponytail and a noticeable limp in her left leg passed by him, struggling to carry a crate filled with water bottles intended for onboard service. She was known as Dana. He had not laid eyes on her until today. She progressed at a more leisurely pace than the rest, yet no one offered assistance. One of the grey-jacketed supervisors, a younger fellow named Trent, who consistently donned mirrored sunglasses indoors, gestured towards her and remarked to another lead, "Just wait. She'll pull that crate for 20 minutes and pretend she completed." "A triathlon." Bradley's jaw tightened. Trent's voice was not deep. Dana had certainly caught wind of it. She remained steadfast, her focus unwavering as she continued to pull the crate toward the loading bay. As soon as she placed it down, she supported her knee with both hands and leaned against the wall. Trent strolled away, a protein shake in hand, glancing at his phone. Bradley moved toward Dana with a hushed demeanor. "Are you okay?" he inquired. "I typically steer clear of beverage loads," she remarked, wiping the sweat from her brow. "One of the other teams is short today, so I had to step in. Did your manager give you that task?" She nodded. "Trent mentioned that everyone contributes equally, shows no concern for my partial tendon tear, stated that if I can show up, I can lift." Bradley's blood turned to ice. Without uttering a word, he assisted her in moving the next crate onto a hand truck and personally wheeled it to the dock. Later that morning, he spotted Priya in the dimly lit corner of the warehouse, crouched next to a haphazard pile of mismatched luggage. With a Sharpie clutched in one hand and a roll of tape in the other, she was ready to create something unique. She was meticulously piecing together a ripped bag tag. "Are you going to fix that one?" he inquired. "Indeed," she replied, her gaze fixed elsewhere. The tag detached at some point between the bus and the belt. "Without a name, there is no path. If I fail to reattach it, it will end up in the lost and found." That's a real horror show. Her words were delivered with sharp clarity, neither irritated nor overly friendly, simply weary. "You have a habit of doing this?" he inquired. She responded, "Only when no one else will." He gave a nod and then crouched down to assist. She paused for a moment before adding, "Kirk claims it's not our responsibility to handle tags, but when guests are missing, their luggage, who do they end up yelling at? The front line crew, of course." "Precisely." They toiled in quietude for a moment. Bradley observed Priya's hands. Her fingers, roughened and marked by time, bear the remnants of tape, while a subtle scar traces the curve of one knuckle. She remained silent. She tackled the tasks that others overlooked. Kirk and Trent were a different story altogether. At the stroke of noon, a charter bus arrived, bringing with it a fresh influx of travelers. With the luggage being offloaded, Kirk leaned against the railing, savoring a large iced coffee while observing the rest of the team in a flurry of activity. Trent strolled over, his sunglasses firmly in place. "Text. Have you seen that new guy?" Trent asked. Kirk chuckled about the one with the busted cart yesterday. "Indeed, moving at a glacial pace, yet he won't make it through another week." Bradley lingered at a distance of 10 feet, partially concealed behind a shuttle crate as he loaded bags onto a dolly. Every word reached his ears. He remained unyielding. The remainder of the shift unfolded in a haze, marked by a missing cart that held up an entire load, a family of 4 whose luggage ended up on the wrong ship, and a heated exchange between 2 leads regarding which crew was responsible for handling a delayed delivery. Neither of the supervisors ever bothered to lend a hand. Instead, they instructed Thomas to fill the gap and then departed for a long lunch. Bradley glanced at the schedule board. They were never meant to take a break. He made his entrance bright and early the following morning. The staff meeting was set to commence at 7:45 a.m. precise before the initial passenger check-ins. His assistant ensured that no shift leads or managers were informed. Exclusively dock hands, runners and logistics personnel. In the break room, they congregated with an air of uncertainty, cradling paper cups of coffee, each person pondering the reason for their unexpected assembly. The man at the front of the room went unnoticed, his posture upright, hands neatly folded. Bradley inhaled deeply. "I'm Bradley Sutton," he stated. "I hold the position of founder and CEO of this company." The atmosphere became still. Thomas almost let his coffee slip from his grasp. Priya's eyes grew wide. Dana, positioned by the distant wall, leaned in. Unconsciously, Bradley pressed on. "This past week I've had the opportunity to collaborate with you. I donned a vest, maneuvered carts, and observed the inner workings of this terminal when the corporate eyes were absent." Silence enveloped the room. "I want to be absolutely clear that what I witnessed was completely unacceptable." He allowed the stillness to envelop the moment. "Many of you put in more effort than is reasonable. You arrive ahead of time, linger beyond the clock, mend the mistakes of others, and often go unappreciated. Today marks a turning point. Several heads were raised. However, I also witnessed supervisors failing to fulfill their responsibilities, showing disrespect towards staff, ridiculing injured workers, and causing damage to passenger property without facing any repercussions. That comes to a close now." He glanced at his assistant, who had slipped in silently from the hallway. She presented him with a folder. "I have come to conclusions. Effective immediately, Kirk and Trent are no longer with us. They are terminated. This is not a suspension or reassignment, but a definitive firing." A collective breath was drawn from the audience, yet no signs of discontent were visible. "Dana," he remarked, glancing at the woman with the ponytail, "it was unwise to assign you heavy lifts while you're injured. Effective immediately, you will be transitioned to the logistics coordination desk exclusively. Your hours and pay will remain unchanged, but this adjustment will alleviate any strain on your knee." Dana blinked twice, her eyes narrowing slightly, as she slowly nodded in understanding. He shifted his gaze towards Priya. "Your efforts to mitigate customer escalation have been truly commendable. That's not merely valuable, it's indispensable. You are being elevated to the position of shift lead, though there is a condition. You will undergo training with a representative from headquarters beforehand." Correctly, one should not be cast into turmoil. Priya parted her lips, only to seal, then once more. She offered a subtle nod, and Thomas Bradley cast a glance at the younger worker. "You focused intently and accomplished the workload of 2 individuals put together. Congratulations, you will be getting a raise and transitioning into a peer mentor position. No more dashing between carts without any assistance." Thomas gulped, nervously. "Thank you, sir." Bradley surveyed the room. "This terminal has lost its direction. I take full responsibility for that. I believed the culture we created would sustain itself. I acknowledge my mistake. Starting today, we will reconstruct it as a team." He allowed the gravity of that to sink in. Silence speaks volumes. offering a deep connection without the need for recognition. "Do you have any inquiries?" A woman positioned toward the rear lifted her hand. "What occurs when the new leads behave just like the previous ones?" Bradley acted without a moment's pause. "Then they will be substituted," he remarked. "There will be no alerts, no discussions. This organization is founded on principles of service and respect. Those who do not truly experience life have no place here." The room lingered in silence for what felt like an eternity. Then a breath was released. A nod came from another individual. Bradley moved to the side. "I'll be available throughout the day. If you have any concerns, suggestions, or anything at all, feel free to come and share your thoughts with me. Unfiltered, unranked, only you and I." As the crew gradually made their way back to their stations, Priya moved closer to him. "This caught me off guard," she remarked. Bradley responded with a simple "neither did I." However, it was long past due. She offered a brief nod. "Please don't disappear after today." "I will not," he hesitated, "and neither will the responsibility." He observed them return, their heads held high, their pace more assured. After a lengthy period, Bradley finally sensed that he was truly at the helm once more. Bradley lingered on the dock well beyond the conclusion of the employee meeting. He chose not to return to the corporate world. He chose not to return to his hotel. He remained in uniform, collaborating with the crew, as vigilance was essential. Throughout the transition, a new shift lead from headquarters was set to arrive that afternoon to observe Priya's training. At that point, the team remained 2 supervisors short, with no replacements in sight. No one inquired about the whereabouts of Kirk or Trent. They were aware, and they were not missed by anyone. As the clock approached noon, the pressure was starting to reveal itself. With 2 fewer leads, the workloads became more burdensome, not disordered, but certainly charged. Thomas was stepping in wherever necessary, verifying bag tags, maneuvering carts, and even assisting Dana in adjusting the manifest board to align with the updated dock queue times. Bradley had secured the necessary approval from operations. No. Additional vessels will be allowed to dock at Terminal 12 for the next 48 hours beyond the established schedule. That provided them with some space, but not indulgence. As the afternoon progressed, an unexpected challenge emerged. A young man clad in a Navy uniform, one of the recent recruits, made his way to the intake station, his face reflecting a sense of bewilderment. His name tag displayed Illy. He stood, tall and wiry, yet there was an evident effort to diminish his presence. "I believe I've made an error in the routing," he remarked. "Tags for bags from the charter bus group. I entered them into the Belvedere manifest, but they are meant for the Pacifica." Priya lifted her gaze from the terminal. "How many bags are there? Perhaps a dozen?" 13, his voice trembled. "I was unaware that a second bus existed." "It's perfectly fine," she remarked. "Shall we make some improvements?" Bradley approached her quietly, observing as she accessed the error report. Her fingers danced swiftly with precision and purpose. She refrained from sighing. She refrained from scolding. She navigated the system and flagged the misrouted tags for review. She instructed Illy to delay the loadout. "We will ensure that every marked piece is removed before it reaches the transport dolly." He nodded, recalling where he had placed them. "All right, let's proceed." As they jogged out, Bradley trailed behind. Upon arriving at the intake conveyor, Illy gestured towards the bags. Priya remained unfazed, immediately beginning to scan and pull. "Keep going," she urged him. "In the future, please raise the issue promptly. There's no reason to feel embarrassed about seeking help. I didn't want to disturb anyone." It can be quite disruptive if a family's luggage is prevented from traveling to another country. Bradley assisted them in reloading the appropriate bags. As they wrapped up, Illy turned to him and inquired, "You're the person from the meeting, correct?" Bradley gave a single nod. "I had no idea the CEO would be present, truly engaged in the work. Neither did half the board," he remarked, adjusting a cart with precision. "Yet, here we stand. In the staging warehouse, an entirely different kind of trouble was unfolding. The midday heat had risen, and a heavy humidity enveloped everything. A beltline worker, a diminutive man named Leo, leaned against the wall, his breath coming in heavy gasps. His cheeks glowed with a deep crimson hue. "Leo," Bradley said, stepping in. "Are you okay?" simply scorching. Hold on a moment. Bradley brushed his fingers against the wall next to him. The metal radiated heat beneath my fingertips. How long have you been at this station? Since the beginning of the shift. He cleared his brow. Last week, I made a request for a fan. Trent suggested I take a plunge in the harbour if I was looking to cool down. Bradley remained silent. He made his way directly to the operations shed, where an experienced maintenance worker was sorting through replacement bulbs. The man responded, saying you have a few extra fans, maybe 2 or 3. What is the reason behind this? Send one to Belt Station 3. At this moment, he called for help, and in no time a fan was buzzing at the end of Leo's conveyor. While it isn't a complete solution, it certainly improved the station's atmosphere. Bradley noted that ventilation issues must be resolved prior to the upcoming hiring cycle. If it was this severe in spring, summer could prove to be perilous. Outside, Dana was orchestrating the new load schedule. She moved today with a deliberate pace, each step taken with caution and intention. She had gained entry to the logistics terminal, and the benefits were already becoming evident. Belvedere's. Pickup is delayed, she reached out to inform me. We must secure the northern carts, otherwise they'll obstruct the Pacifica's route. Would you like me to manage the excess? Tomas inquired. Dana gave a slight nod. Utilize the back lot. I've revised the grid. Please take a look at the orange zone. Bradley observed the interaction, smooth and courteous. Please refrain from shouting or using sarcasm. True collaboration was emerging even amidst the strain, yet the ultimate challenge arrived at 4:27 p.m. An unexpected guest shuttle made an early arrival, a surprise drop-off. 22 bags, completely unmarked, came in with a set of travelers who had been redirected from a postponed connecting cruise. These loads were not typical. They required manual entry, careful cross-checking with the passenger manifest, and prioritization for prompt boarding. The system was not designed for real-time processing of that nature. Priya, feeling drained, gazed at the pile before her. The names must be matched manually, and we need to do it quickly. Copy, Bradley instructed. I'll handle the latter part while you manage the initial segment. Ali came back with a notepad, having caught wind of the dispatch. Allow me to assist, he offered. I will announce names from the check-in desk. A swift improvised line took shape, with Ali calling out names while Bradley and Priya diligently wrote and tagged. Dana redirected the carts. Tomas examined the tagged bags and sent them on their way. It may not have been refined, but it got the job done. By 5 o'clock, every bag had been processed and was on board. Bradley rested against a crate, beads of sweat trickling down his back. Not from the effort, but the consequences. A misstep, in that moment, would have left 22 guests embarking on a luxury cruise with nothing but disappointment. Instead, they remained blissfully unaware that anything had gone awry. As the sun dipped low, the HQ trainer arrived, a woman named Marlene, sporting a sharp bob haircut and exuding a no-nonsense demeanor. She reached out to Priya right away. I'm not here to play caretaker, she said. I am present to take note of my surroundings. Continue guiding your team as you have been doing. I'll step in only if you ask, Priya agreed with a nod. Just. The remainder of the evening unfolded with minimal complications. The team made modifications. They remained tense. There was no space for that, yet they flowed with greater trust, greater rhythm. As the shift drew to a close, Bradley brought them together once more. Only updates, no speeches. He informed Priya that she now has a trainer. Utilize her. There's no need to hurry to get this just right, he said to Thomas. Your role as a mentor begins next week. You will be directed to 2 additional terminals initially. Observe their movements. Return that insight to Dana. The logistics operations role is a permanent position. You will receive a desk, a monitor, and the responsibility to manage the shipping schedules directly. She gave a single nod, devoid of a smile, yet her eyes conveyed a world of meaning. Within 30 days, cooling units will be installed at all Beltline stations, Leo. Until that time, enthusiasts and moments of respite are essential. He moved on without seeking recognition. He was not anticipating any. Marlene paused beside him as the others exited. This could have turned out much worse, she remarked. Most site interventions indeed do. "It's not over," Bradley replied. "No, but you've given them a reprieve and they trust that you are sincere," he nodded. "Simply because I do." She gazed across the dockyard, where the final glimmers of daylight cascaded over the piled carts. "Let's observe how they act on that conviction," she remarked. Bradley remained silent. He simply observed as the crew faded into the twilight, weary and rough around the edges, yet no longer overlooked. The following week progressed with intentional organization. There were no dramatic alterations, no grand announcements, only steady and noticeable transformations in the way things operated. Bradley remained engaged, moving between the main warehouse, the loading docks and the intake zone, not merely as a figurehead but as an active participant. He kept his vest on. His name tag continued to display Ben. The staff had their preferences and he honored them. On the third morning, a subtle tension lingered in the atmosphere as a newcomer named Curtis embarked on his inaugural shift. A middle-aged man, robust, in stature with a face marked by time, donned his uniform with precision and carried himself with an air of practiced assurance. He arrived from a different terminal, swiftly moved following a departmental reorganization. Under Marlene's guidance, Priya took on the role of lead and designated him to the north dock alongside Thomas. Initially, Curtis maintained a consistent pace. He remained mostly silent, merely nodding in response to instructions and adhering to the established routine. However, by midday his tone changed. "You won't last long if you keep taking on everyone else's responsibilities," he remarked to Thomas, observing him as he adjusted a routing slip. Thomas remained silent. He continuously compared the scans with the manifest. "Honestly, Curtis," went on, "do you really believe they'll award you a medal for this achievement? Your actions are casting a shadow on the rest of us." Nearby, Bradley was stacking crates and caught every word that was spoken. Thomas raised his gaze. "I'm fulfilling the task that was assigned to me." Curtis muttered, "You're just doing what makes you look good." Bradley made his entrance. He asked Curtis directly if there was an issue with the assignment. Curtis cast a quick look in his direction. "Nope. It's interesting how certain individuals take on a supervisory role even when it's not their place." Bradley maintained a firm stare. "Your role here is to assist with the loadout process. If that's not clear, Priya can provide another overview for you." "I have a clear plan," Curtis responded. "I anticipate that you will accomplish it." Curtis offered a brief nod, remaining silent thereafter. Later that day, Priya discreetly beckoned Bradley to a quieter spot near the terminal. "There's an unsettling quality about him," she murmured softly. He inquired whether Thomas was the one brought on for charity reasons and quipped about him attempting to appear like a manager. I chose not to respond immediately since I didn't hear it firsthand, but it seemed sharp. Did anyone else hear that, Illy? He appeared uneasy. Bradley acted without hesitation. He summoned Curtis to the operations room, where Marlene was meticulously examining the training logs. "Curtis," Bradley remarked, "I wish to emphasize this point clearly. If I catch any comments that seem to focus on looks, background, effort, or anything similar, consider it over for you. No alerts. There will be no appeals." Curtis folded his arms across his chest. "I didn't say anything inappropriate. You called your teammate a charity hire. That's clearly defined. That's a statement. You have crossed it." Curtis let out a derisive laugh. "It was merely a jest." "It wasn't," Marlene said, standing. "And you're excused from this terminal." Effective immediately, Curtis blinked, taken aback by the rapidity. "Hold on, you're letting me go because of that?" "No," Bradley replied. "Your termination is a result of demonstrating that you do not fit within a team that values respect and accountability. This job is not something you are entitled to. You deserve it, and you didn't, so security was summoned." Curtis chose not to engage in further debate. He exited in silence, leaving no further remarks behind. Once he departed, Marlene shifted her gaze to Bradley. That was quick. It was inevitable. There's no hesitation when the well is tainted. That evening, the atmosphere among the team was notably subdued. Not anxious, but contemplative. The dismissal had not escaped attention. Although it resulted in a minor disruption to the shift rotation, there were no complaints from anyone. Indeed, Dana was the first to break the silence as they wrapped things up. She remarked that people take notice. When you manage situations in that manner, it's not only about who you let go, but also about who you stand by, Bradley acknowledged. We're not creating an ideal team, we are creating a reliable one. The following days unfolded with a more consistent cadence. Priya pressed on with her lead training, now embracing the task of managing the schedule. She modified break schedules to address heat exposure, ensuring staff rotated out of the belt room every 90 minutes. Marlene proposed the idea, yet Priya executed it with unwavering resolve. Thomas embarked on his mentor rounds, observing the warehouse runners and assisting in the onboarding of 2 new hires. His presence was not boisterous, yet the tranquility he exuded had a significant impact, particularly on Illy, who was navigating the intricate nuances of manifest routing. You don't need to memorize the entire list, Thomas said during a check-in. One simply learns to interpret the patterns. If a bag continues to appear as a duplicate, it is typically due to a scan echo originating from the intake belt. Verify the time recorded. If it's the same, it's a flaw, not an oversight. Illy jotted it down, nodding eagerly. Bradley observed another detail. Dana had started to utilize her desk space for constructing a shift board, complete with colored tags for each route, adjusted times, and a handwritten log of issues accompanied by timestamps. She already knew. She recognized the gap and effortlessly bridged it. On the 6th morning, Bradley got a call from corporate. A regional VP learned of the staff overhaul and expressed interest in sending a press team to commemorate the transformation. No, Bradley replied. Not at this moment, only when the transformation is genuine. The focus wasn't on marketing. Integrity existed. As the week drew to a close, the terminal started operating smoothly without the need for ongoing oversight. Mistakes persisted. A mislabeled bag, a delayed cart, but the distinction lay in the approach to resolving them. There will be no blame, no raised voices, only constructive feedback. On the 7th day, Marlene made her way to Bradley, who was positioned by the intake bay, observing the morning bus as it discharged its passengers. It seems you're getting ready to leave, right? I exist. Do you believe it will withstand the pressure? I believe the appropriate individuals are positioned correctly, and I believe they recognize that I'm more than just a name on a newsletter. She folded her arms across her chest. It's interesting how many executives tend to show up, let go of a couple of employees, deliver a brief statement, and then disappear without a trace. You remained. He gazed over at the dock, observing as Priya guided Illy through the new intake. Procedure. Thomas was signaling a load issue on his tablet. Dana was in the process of refreshing the grid board. For this is the place of significance, he remarked. Marlene gave a slow, deliberate nod. It seems this terminal has improved its standing among your sites. Excellent, he remarked. However, it must not belong to anyone else as well. As the shift changed, Bradley strolled through the warehouse one final time, devoid of a clipboard, unadorned by a manager's badge. In a manner true to himself, Priya encountered him by the exit. You're leaving, he acknowledged with a nod. I'll be sure to follow up, simply not face to face. Her lips remained uncurled. There was no necessity for her to do so. Thank you for being present, she said. He responded, expressing gratitude for the value of the experience. He began to walk away but hesitated. Oh, and when corporate sends a new lead next time, ensure they are aware of the guidelines. No, he replied. Ensure they understand who holds the true authority. She offered a resolute nod, brimming with assurance. He departed the terminal quietly, without any fanfare or words, simply the calm assurance that something fractured had been mended correctly, not merely covered up or superficially fixed, restored, with skilled hands guiding the instruments, and it would remain intact. For now those hands understood their true value and what they would never permit again.